Welcome, meatheads. This is Scully, your friendly neighbourhood floating undead skull of writing stories. Now, before we get started, let's talk about the Threadmistress and the teddy bear and then why we're putting it up here. Now, despite the way I talk and the title of the story, it is not a children's story. It's a young adult story about superheroes, supervillains in an alternate Earth with an alternate history. So some parts of society are exactly the same. You know, people have iPhones, people catch Ubers, criminals, but then other parts are completely changed. So the military and the police are totally evolved into a different way they work because of the existence of superheroes who have been, unlike Marvel superheroes, who have been sort of embedded into society and are part of society, and not separate to society like you have in most stories. Alrighty, let's get started with Chapter 1. Chapter 1, Origins 1. Emery hid in the depths of the Heroes' Tower's basement. The lower levels were ancient remnants of a bygone era where forgotten corridors and storage rooms were plentiful. She brushed a cobweb from her shoulder as she crouched. "Ugh," she said a little too loudly. It was a mistake. She heard footsteps and whispers. "She's down here. I know it," a girl said softly. "I don't think searching for her down here in the bowels of the tower is worth a prank. It's like she's pranking us," a boy said in reply with a tinge of impatience. Brittany was not Emery's nemesis. She merely served the eagle hag that was Bree, the bitch queen of New York Hero Academy. After the graduation ceremony, it was tradition that former students would prank each other, and Bree had decided that her entourage would prank Emery. What was stupid was Emery had easily guessed this was happening and ran to hide until everyone left. But that did not deter Bree. She sent her minions to go and find Emery so they could prank her. Most of the former students of New York Hero Academy had gathered in the Great Hall, some covered in goo, nearly all of them laughing, with Bree being the exception. The white-haired girl grimaced at a tall, good-looking boy. "Why haven't they found her yet?" Bree vehemently asked for the fourth time in 4 minutes. Isaac shrugged. While he did not exactly serve Bree, he would not openly disagree with her either. "Don't let her ruin your fun. Let's just move on and enjoy the party." "And let her best me? Me?" she breathed angrily. "She finished in the lower half in every subject. We cannot allow her to escape and laugh at us." Bree paced for a moment before continuing her rant. "Why don't we have anyone with farsight or precog? We really have gaps in our capability." Isaac took on a conciliatory look while nodding obediently to each point. "But really, she is not bested you. She ran away and hid. If we leave her down there for hours and enjoy ourselves up here, then really, you won, yeah?" "Fine," Bree said while lifting her hands in surrender. Isaac hurriedly messaged Brittany and Samuel to return. Emery breathed easily as their footsteps dissipated. She would have to move. They had almost found her and could be back shortly. Not wanting to turn her phone light on and give herself away, she sent out her threads. Through touch, the threads found a gap in the corridor, and she followed it. She was like a blind person with a cane using her threads to feel her way around. Emery was known as a puppeteer or thread user. She could send out threads, which were invisible to most, and use them to move objects. Hers weren't particularly strong. Isaac easily broke them one time when she tried to tie him up during an exercise. She couldn't lift heavy objects or throw an object at high speeds. She was unable to capture or injure a villain. Emery felt she was lucky to graduate from NYHA at all. The teachers said her powers would grow. Their adaptability and uniqueness made her an asset for any hero company. After one disastrous exercise, the headmistress brought her in and told her that the Threadmasters were rare, and they wouldn't give up on her. Unfortunately, her high, albeit unrealised, potential made her a target for Bree, the number one student academically and the most powerful. Bree was a force field wielder and a strong one at that. Although she had only the one power, she could use it in a variety of ways. She had several attacks and highly effective defences. She could even defend other heroes, or hero apprentices, as they now were. Emery was determined not to be pranked. She didn't care if it was goo or camel turds. She was not going to be smothered in anything for Bree's or anyone's amusement. The fact that the pranks were supposed to be good-natured fun was lost on Bree. And she approached the opportunity like she did everything, and an opportunity to exert her dominance and push another down. Emery crawled through another tight crevice. The cobwebs were disgusting, but she was angry enough not to care. She didn't even consider what they were made from. What was unseen did not exist. She noticed the current floor she was traversing was dustier than usual and oddly cold. Emery took a chance by turning on the light on her phone to take a look around. She had no idea where she was. There were rows of shelves covered with dust and dust-encased boxes. She sneezed after breathing in a gobful of disturbed floating dust particles. "What is this room?" she breathed. Emery stood and inspected one of the boxes. It was full of old papers. "Who still uses paper?" she asked herself. But the records were old, which probably explained their existence. Emery felt a slight tug. "Huh?" she said quietly, and then thought, what was that? The tug was not a physical tug. It was something she could not explain. It was like a psychic tug of some sort. It pulled at something inside her. She closed her eyes and followed the feeling. The rational conservative part of her called for caution, but Emery did not care. Her smouldering anger and resentment regarding her treatment had put her in a mood, one which motivated her to give zero fucks. The feeling that pulled at her led her to a box. It was tied with an intricate cord, which she started to undo with the threads, pulling the cords this way and that. After an age, she finally disentangled the cord and was able to open the box. She peered inside and laughed. It contained a teddy bear. In the year 1939, according to historical texts, the mutant villains declared war on the rest of humanity. It was known as the Great War. At the beginning of this war, all mutants were thought to be evil, but some emerged who fought and protected the rest of humanity. These few became known as heroes. In the preceding years, more and more children were born with hero powers. They were identified as blood testing and genetic analysis improved. These children were tested and trained. The strongest went on to become police, serve in the military, and conduct other security services. With proper supervision and controls, the villain abhorrent were contained and eliminated by the educated heroes. Society's police and security force arms were now primarily serviced by heavily regulated corporations who employed heroes. During the Great War, the leader of the villains was known simply as the Dark Lord. His powers were not fully understood, but what was evident was he was a master of dark energy. His equal has never been seen since his capture and subjugation, which marked the turning point of the Great War. Historical texts agree that he was too powerful to kill, so he was sent to another dimension where it would be impossible for him to return. Only the few of the first heroes knew the truth. No matter what they tried, they could not defeat nor kill the Dark Lord. The breakthrough only came when their most powerful psionicist succeeded in transferring the Dark Lord's conscious into a facsimile. This facsimile was spirit-bound and sealed by the first Threadmaster, known as String. After it had not moved in the slightest for 10 years, the 24-hour guard was called off and an hourly check commenced. Another decade, and the officials performing the hourly check had no idea what and why they were checking the facsimile. Then, as time went by, another couple of decades passed, and the heroes who had imprisoned the Dark Lord had all passed of peaceful old age. The Dark Lord had not threatened again in their lifetime, and they died in peace, satisfied that they had won the war. Now, almost 100 years had passed. The facsimile, which was once guarded day and night, and locked in the deepest vault, had long been forgotten. It rested in the same box that an old Threadmaster prepared in 1969. He slept comfortably knowing only another Threadmaster could undo his weave. They were rare and always good, in his mind, like him and his apprentice. The Dark Lord had never shown any sign of escaping his imprisonment, or even any sign of life from the facsimile. Not until 2024, when an 18-year-old girl named Emery opened the Threadmaster's sealed box and removed it. "I think I will call you Little Ted," she said merrily. Unlike the rest of the room, Little Ted was not dusty. He was pristine. Emery smiled at him. He was adorable. Emery tucked him under her arm and used a phone light to try and retrace her steps.
She'd been there for hours. The party after the graduation must be over by now. Therefore, the threat from Bree and her band of weak-willed followers was over as well. There were a few messages from Isaac on her phone. She deleted them without reading and put him on ignore. As she emerged from the basement and came into a lit area, Emery noticed her dress was covered in dust and quite a few cobwebs. She sighed and attempted to beat the dust out. She placed little Ted on the ground momentarily while she did this, not wanting to get him dirty. And that's the end of chapter 1.